Hey, hey! It's Ray Langley at your service, virtual entertainer and wolf girl extraordinaire. Welcome to today's reading stream. How is everyone today? Welcome into Candace, Army Productions, Fizcatos. So good to see you guys again. Okay, there we go. Got that. Got my little insert music for today. There we go. Okay. So, been a while since I've done a mystery story, and to be honest, I've missed those since those are among my favorite genres of story to read. So I decided I'm going to be reading a Christmas themed mystery so that we can still be in the season, so to speak, but with a little bit of a twist. The twist is murder. All right, so today's story, I've gone ahead and linked it up top. Let me go ahead and pin it so that you guys can see. Um, but today's story is being read on readanybook.com, which to my knowledge is as legitimate as possible. Um, so hopefully I'm not in any legal breach by linking that site. But yeah, it's to the best of my knowledge, it's a legitimate site, and they have this collection of Agatha Christie short stories on there called The 13 Problems. And in it, um, there's one called The Christmas, A Christmas Tragedy. So if you want to follow along, please go ahead and click that link. You should be directed to the book in digital form. You can click through. When you get to the table of contents, they are actually hyperlinked. So if you click on chapter 10, A Christmas Tragedy, it should take you right to it. I've also gone ahead and counted. It seems to be 24 pages long. So it'll be a relatively short story, so I can keep it to just the one-shot stream. Oh, that waveform thing's a little too big. Let me fix that. There we go. Okay. Let's see. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. Once again, this is A Christmas Tragedy by Agatha Christie from the collection The 13 Problems. Did Agatha get inspired by a giant wasp in this one as well? Chat's a bit long? Okay. Sorry, for some reason it's like I can chat in my chat, but it's telling me to sign into chat. I don't get it. Whatever. Anyway, um, trim it to about that much. Is that nice and short? I know, I know. It has the sign in button visible. I don't get it because look, I can literally chat. I don't know why it's telling me to sign in. It doesn't have that on my end. It's I don't know. Live everybody. Yeah. It's it's weird. It's YouTube. It's just what we got to do. So, anyway, the 13 problems. Christmas tragedy. No, I did not forget to clip it. I don't know how to get rid of that. Been a while since I did character voices, so this is gonna be fun. This is a nice little return to form for me.
I have a complaint to make,
said Sir Henry Clithering. His eyes twinkled gently as he looked around at the assembled company. Colonel Bantry, his legs stretched out, was frowning at the mantelpiece as though it were a delinquent soldier on parade. His wife was surreptitiously glancing at a catalogue of bulbs which had come by the late post. Dr. Lloyd was gazing with frank admiration at Jane Hellier, and that beautiful young actress herself was thoughtfully regarding her pink-polished nails. Only that elderly spinster lady, Miss Marple, was sitting bolt upright, and her faded blue eyes met Sir Henry's with an answering twinkle.
"A complaint," she murmured. "A very serious complaint. We are a company of 6, 3 representatives of each sex, and I protest on behalf of the downtrodden males. We have had 3 stories told tonight, and told by the 3 men. I protest that the ladies have not done their fair share."
"Oh," said Mrs. Bantry with indignation, "I'm sure we have. We've listened with the most intelligent appreciation. We've displayed the true womanly attitude, not wishing to thrust ourselves in the limelight."
"It's an excellent excuse," said Sir Henry, "but it won't do, and there's a very good precedent in the Arabian Nights. So forward, Scheherazade."
"Meaning me?" said Mrs. Bantry. "But I don't know anything to tell. I've never been surrounded by blood or mystery."
"I don't absolutely insist upon blood," said Sir Henry, "but I'm sure one of you 3 ladies has got a pet mystery. Come now, Miss Marple, the curious coincidence of the charwoman, or the mystery of the mothers' meeting. Don't disappoint me in St. Mary Mead."
Miss Marple shook her head. "Nothing that would interest you, Sir Henry. We have our little mysteries, of course. There was that gill of picked shrimps that disappeared so incomprehensibly, but that wouldn't interest you because it all turned out to be so trivial, though throwing a considerable light on human nature."
"You have taught me to dote on human nature," said Sir Henry solemnly. "What about you, Miss Hellier?"
asked Colonel Bantry.
"You must have had some interesting experiences."
"Yes, indeed," said Dr. Lloyd. "Me?" said Jane. "You mean you want me to tell you something that happened to me?"
"Or to one of your friends," amended Sir Henry.
"Oh," said Jane vaguely. "I don't think anything has ever happened to me." "Oh, I mean, not that kind of thing. Flowers, of course, and queer messages. But that's just men, isn't it? I don't think..." She paused and appeared lost in thought.
"I see we shall have to have that epic of the shrimps," said Sir Henry. "Now then, Miss Marple."
"You're so fond of your jokes, Sir Henry. The shrimps are only nonsense. But now that I come to think of it, I do remember one incident, at least not exactly an incident, something very much more serious." "A tragedy. And I was, in a way, mixed up in it. And for what I did, I've never had any regrets. No regrets at all. But it didn't happen in St. Mary Mead."
"Well, that disappoints me," said Sir Henry. "But I will endeavor to bear up. I knew we should not rely upon you in vain."
He settled himself in the attitude of a listener. Miss Marple grew slightly pink. "Oh, I hope I shall be able to tell it properly," she said anxiously. "I fear I'm very inclined to become rambling. One wanders from the point altogether without knowing that one is doing so. And it is so hard to remember each fact in its proper order. You must all bear with me if I tell my story badly. It happened a very long time ago now. As I say, it was not connected with St. Mary Mead. As a matter of fact, it had to do with a hydro... Do you mean a seaplane?" asked Jane with wide eyes. "You wouldn't know, dear," said Mrs. Bantry, and explained. Her husband added his quota.
"Beastly places. Absolutely beastly. Got to get up early and drink filthy tasting water. Lot of old women sitting about, ill-natured tittle-tattle. God, when I think—"
"Now, Arthur," said Mrs. Bantry placidly, "you know it did you all the good in the world."
"Lot of old women sitting round talking scandal," grunted Colonel Bantry.
"That, I am afraid, is true," said Miss Marple. "I myself—"
"My dear Miss Marple," cried the Colonel, horrified, "I didn't mean for one moment—"
With pink cheeks and a little gesture of the hand, Miss Marple stopped him. "But it is true, Colonel Bantry. Only I should just like to say this. Let me recollect my thoughts. Yes, talking scandal, as you say, well, it is done a good deal. And people are very down on it, especially young people. My nephew, who writes books, and very clever ones, I believe, has said some most scathing things about taking people's characters away without any kind of proof, and how wicked it is, and all that. But what I say is that none of those young people ever stop to think. They really don't examine the facts. Surely the whole crux of the matter is this: how often is tittle-tattle, as you call it, true? And I think if, as I say, they really examine the facts, they would find that it was true 9 times out of 10. That's really just what makes people so annoyed about it."
"The inspired guess," said Sir Henry.
"No, not that at all. It's really a matter of practice and experience. An Egyptologist, so I've heard, if you show him one of those curious little beetles, can tell you by the look and the feel of the thing what date BC it is, or if it's a Birmingham imitation. And he can't always give a definite rule for doing so, he just knows. His life has been spent handling such things."
"And
That's what I'm trying to say. Very badly, I know. What my nephew calls superfluous women have a lot of time on their hands, and their chief interest is usually people. And so, you see, they get to be what one might call experts. Now, young people nowadays, they talk very freely about things that weren't mentioned in my young days, but on the other hand, their minds are terribly innocent. They believe in everyone and everything, and if one tries to warn them ever so gently, they tell one that one has a Victorian mind, and that, they say, is like a sink."
"After all," said Sir Henry, "what is wrong with a sink?"
"Exactly," said Miss Marple eagerly. Oh. Okay. "It's the most necessary thing in any house, but of course not romantic. Now, I must confess that I have my feelings, like everyone else, and I have sometimes been cruelly hurt by unthinking remarks. I know gentlemen are not interested in domestic matters, but I must just mention my maid Ethel. A very good-looking girl and obliging in every way. Now, I realized as soon as I saw her that she was the same type as Annie Webb and poor Mrs. Brewitt's girl. If the opportunity arose, mine and thine would mean nothing to her. So I let her go at the month, and I gave her a written reference saying she was honest and sober, but privately I warned old Mrs. Edwards against taking her. And my nephew Raymond was exceedingly angry, and said he had never heard of anything so wicked. Yes, wicked. Well, she went to Lady Ashton, whom I felt no obligation to warn, and what happened? All the lace cut off her underclothes, and 2 diamond brooches taken, and the girl departed in the middle of the night, and never heard of since. Miss Marple paused, drew a long breath, and then went on. You'll be saying this has nothing to do with what went on at Keston Spa Hydro, but it has, in a way. It explains why I felt no doubt in my mind, the first moment I saw the Sanders together, that he meant to do away with her.
Eh?
Said Sir Henry, leaning forward. Miss Marple turned a placid face to him. As I say, Sir Henry, I felt no doubt in my own mind. Mr. Sanders was a big, good-looking, florid-faced man, very hearty in his manner and popular with all, and nobody could have been pleasanter to his wife than he was. But I knew he meant to make away with her.
My dear Miss Marple.
Yes, I know. That's what my nephew Raymond West would say. He'd tell me I hadn't a shadow of proof, but I remember Walter Hones, who kept the Green Man. Walking home with his wife one night, she fell into the river, and he collected the insurance money, and 1 or 2 other people that are walking about scot-free to this day, one indeed in our own class of life. Went to Switzerland for a summer holiday, climbing with his wife. I warned her not to go. The poor dear didn't get angry with me as she might have done. She only laughed. It seemed to her funny that a queer old thing like me should say such things about her Harry. Well, there was an accident, and Harry is married to another woman now. But what could I do? I knew, but there was no proof. Oh, Miss Marple, cried Mrs. Bantry, you don't really mean... My dear, these things are very common indeed. And gentlemen are especially tempted, being so much the stronger. So easy if a thing looks like an accident. As I say, I knew at once with the Sanders. It was on a tram. It was full inside, and I had to go on top. We all 3 got up to get off, and Mr. Sanders lost his balance and fell right against his wife, sending her head first down the stairs. Fortunately, the conductor was a very strong young man, and caught her. But surely that must be an accident. Of course it was an accident. Nothing could have looked more accidental. But Mr. Sanders had been in the merchant service, so he told me, and a man who can keep his balance on a nasty tilting boat doesn't lose it on top of a tram if an old woman like me doesn't. Don't tell me.
At any rate, we can take it that you made up your mind, Miss Marple, said Sir Henry. Made it up then and there.
The old lady nodded. I was sure enough, and another incident in crossing the street not long afterwards made me surer still. Now, I ask you, What could I do, Sir Henry? Here was a nice, contented, happy little married woman shortly going to be murdered.
My dear lady, you take my breath away.
That's because, like most people nowadays, you won't face facts. You prefer to think such a thing couldn't be. But it was so, and I knew it. But one is so sadly handicapped. I couldn't, for instance, go to the police, and to warn the young woman I could see it would be useless. She was devoted to the man. I just made it my business to find out as much as I could about them. One has a lot of opportunities doing one's needlework round the fire. Mrs. Sanders, Gladys her name was only too willing to talk. It seems they had not been married very long. Her husband had some property that was coming to him, but for the moment they were very badly off. In fact, they were living on her little income. One has heard that tale before. She bemoaned the fact that she could not touch the capital. It seems that somebody had had some sense somewhere, but the money was hers to will away. I found that out. And she and her husband had made wills in favor of each other directly after their marriage. Very touching, of course, when Jack's affairs came right. That was the burden all day long, and in the meantime, they were very hard up indeed. Actually had a room on the top floor, all among the servants, and so dangerous in case of fire, though as it happened, there was a fire escape just outside their window. I inquired carefully if there was a balcony. Dangerous things, balconies. One push, you know. I made her promise not to go out on the balcony. I said I'd had a dream. That impressed her. One can do a lot with superstition sometimes. She was a fair girl, rather washed-out complexion, and an untidy roll of hair on her neck. Very credulous. She repeated what I had said to her husband, and I noticed him looking at me in a curious way once or twice. He wasn't credulous, and he knew I'd been on that tram. But I was very worried, terribly worried, because I couldn't see how to circumvent him. I could prevent anything happening at the hydro just by saying a few words to show him I suspected. But that only meant putting off his plan till later. No, I began to believe that the only policy was a bold one, somehow or other to lay a trap for him. If I could induce him to attempt her life in a way of my own choosing, well, then he would be unmasked. And she would be forced to face the truth, however much of a shock it was to her.
You take my breath away, said Dr. Lloyd. What conceivable plan could you adopt?
I'd have found one, never fear, said Miss Marple. But the man was too clever for me. He didn't wait. He thought I might suspect, and so he struck before I could be sure. He knew I would suspect an accident, so he made it murder. A little gasp went round the circle. Miss Marple nodded, and set her lips grimly together. I'm afraid I've put that rather abruptly. I must try and tell you exactly what occurred. I've always felt very bitterly about it. It seems to me that I ought somehow to have prevented it, but doubtless Providence knew best. I did what I could at all events. There was what I could only describe as a curiously eerie feeling in the air. There seemed to be something weighing on us all, a feeling of misfortune. To begin with, there was George, the hall porter. Had been there for years and knew everybody, bronchitis and pneumonia, and passed away on the 4th day. Terribly sad. A real blow to everybody. And 4 days before Christmas, too. And then one of the housemaids, such a nice girl, a septic finger, actually died in 24 hours. I was in the drawing room with Miss Trollope and old Mrs. Carpenter, and Mrs. Carpenter was being positively ghoulish, relishing it all, you know. Mark my words, she said. This isn't the end. You know the saying, never two without three. I've proved it true time and again. There'll be another death, not a doubt of it, and shan't have long to wait. Never two without three. As she said the last words, nodding her head and clicking her knitting needles, I just chanced to look up and saw. I just chanced to look up, and there was Mr. Sanders standing in the doorway. Just for a minute he was off guard, and I saw the look in his face as plain as plain. I shall believe till my dying day that it was that ghoulish Mrs. Carpenter's words that put the whole thing into his head. I saw his mind working. He came forward into the room smiling in his genial way.
"Any Christmas shopping I can do for you ladies?" he asked. "I'm going down to Keston presently."
He stayed a minute or two laughing and talking, and then went out. As I tell you, I was troubled, and I said straight away, "Where's Mrs. Sanders? Does anyone know?" Miss Trollope said she'd gone out to some friends of hers, the Mortimers, to play bridge, and had eased my mind for the moment, but I was still very worried and most uncertain as to what to do. About half an hour later, I went up to my room. I met with Dr. Coles, my doctor there, coming down the stairs as I was going up, and as I happened to want to consult him about my rheumatism, I took him to my room with me then and there. He mentioned to me then, in confidence, he said, about the death of the poor girl Mary. The manager didn't want the news to get about, he said, so would I keep it to myself? Of course, I didn't tell him that we'd all been discussing nothing else for the last hour, ever since the poor girl breathed her last. These things are always known at once, and a man of his experience should know that well enough. But Dr. Coles always was a simple, unsuspicious fellow who believed what he wanted to believe, and that's just what alarmed me a minute later. He said, as he was leaving, that Sanders had asked him to have a look at his wife. It seemed she'd been seedy of late, indigestion, etc. Now that very self-same day, Gladys Sanders had said to me that she got a wonderful digestion and was thankful for it. You see, all my suspicions of that man came back 100-fold. He was preparing the way. For what? Dr. Coles left before I could make up my mind whether to speak to him or not, though really if I had spoken, I shouldn't have known what to say. As I came out of my room, the man himself, Sanders, came down the stairs from the floor above. He was dressed to go out, and he asked me again if he could do anything for me in the town. It was all I could do to be civil to the man. I went straight into the lounge and ordered tea. It was just on 5:30, I remember. Now, I'm very anxious to put clearly what happened next. I was still in the lounge at 6:45 when Mr. Sanders came in. There were 2 gentlemen with him, and all 3 of them were inclined to be a little on the lively side. Mr. Sanders left his 2 friends and came right over to where I was sitting with Miss Trollope. He explained that he wanted our advice about a Christmas present he was giving his wife. It was an evening bag.
"And you see, ladies,"
he said,
"I'm only a rough sailorman. What do I know about such things? I've had 3 sent to me on approval, and I want an expert opinion on them."
We said, of course, that we'd be delighted to help him, and he asked if we'd mind coming upstairs, as his wife might come in any minute if he brought the things down. So we went up to him, with him. I shall never forget what happened next. I can feel my little fingers tingling now. Mr. Sanders opened the door of the bedroom and switched on the light. I don't know which of us saw it first. Mrs. Sanders was lying on the floor, face downwards, dead. I got to her first. I knelt down and took her hand and felt for the pulse, but it was useless. The arm itself was cold and stiff. Just by her head was a stocking filled with sand, the weapon she had been struck down with. Miss Trollope, a silly creature, was moaning and moaning by the door and holding her head. Sanders gave a great cry of, "My wife! My wife!" and rushed to her. I stopped him touching her. You see, I was sure at the moment he had done it, and there might have been something that he wanted to take away or hide. "Nothing must be touched," I said. "Pull yourself together, Mr. Sanders. Miss Trollope, please go down and fetch the manager." I stayed there, kneeling by the body. I wasn't going to leave Sanders alone with it. And yet I was forced to admit that if the man was acting, he was acting marvelously. He looked dazed and bewildered and scared out of his wits. The manager was with us in no time. He made a quick inspection of the room, then turned us all out and locked the door, the key of which he took. Then he went off and telephoned to the police. It seemed a positive age before they came. We learnt afterwards that the line was out of order. The manager had to send a messenger to the police station, and the hydro is right out of the town, up on the edge of the moor, and Mrs. Carpenter tried us all very severely. She was so pleased at her prophecy of never two without three coming true so quickly. Sanders, I hear, wandered out into the grounds, clutching his head and groaning and displaying every sign of grief. However, the police came at last. They went upstairs with the manager and Mr. Sanders. Later, they sent down for me. I went up. The inspector was there, sitting at a table, writing. He was an intelligent-looking man, and I liked him.
"Miss Jane Marple?"
he said. "Yes."
"I understand, madam, that you were present when the body of the deceased was found."
I said I was, and I described exactly what had occurred. I think it was a relief to the poor man to find someone who could answer his questions coherently, having previously had to deal with Sanders and Emily Trollope, who I gather was completely demoralized. She would be, the silly creature. I remember my dear mother teaching me that a gentlewoman should always be able to control herself in public, however much she may give way in private.
"An admirable maxim,"
said Sir Henry gravely. When I had finished, the inspector said,
"Thank you, madam. Now, I'm afraid I must ask you just to look at the body once more. Is that exactly the position in which it was lying when you entered the room? It hasn't been moved in any way?"
I explained that I had prevented Mr. Sanders from doing so, and the inspector nodded approval.
"The gentleman seems terribly upset,"
he remarked. "He seems so, yes," I replied.
"I don't think I put any special emphasis on the seems."
But the inspector looked at me rather keenly.
"So we can take it that the body is exactly as it was when found,"
he said. "Except for the hat, yes," I replied. The inspector looked up sharply.
"What do you mean, the hat?"
I explained that the hat had been on poor Gladys's head, whereas now it was lying beside her. I thought, of course, that the police had done this. The inspector, however, denied it emphatically. Nothing had as yet been moved or touched. He stood looking down at that poor prone figure with a puzzled frown. Gladys was dressed in her outdoor clothes. A big dark red tweed coat with a grey fur collar. The hat, a cheap affair of red felt, lay just by her head. The inspector stood for some minutes in silence, frowning to himself. Then an idea struck him.
"Can you by any chance remember, madam, whether there were earrings in the ears or whether the deceased habitually wore earrings?"
Now, fortunately, I am in the habit of observing closely. I remember that there had been a glint of pearls just below the hat brim, though I paid no particular notice to it at the time. I was able to answer his first question in the affirmative.
"Then that settles it. The lady's jewel case was rifled. Not that she had anything much of value, I understand, and the rings were taken from her fingers. The murderer must have forgotten the earrings and came back for them after the murder was discovered. A cool customer. Or perhaps..."
He stared around the room and said slowly,
He may have been concealed here in this room all the time.
But I negatived that idea. I myself, I explained, had looked under the bed, and the manager had opened the doors of the wardrobe. There was nowhere else where a man could hide. It is true, the hat cupboard was locked in the middle of the wardrobe, but as that was only a shallow affair with shelves, no one could have been concealed there. The inspector nodded his head slowly whilst I explained all this.
I'll take your word for it, madam,
he said.
In that case, as I said before, he must have come back. A very cool customer.
But the manager locked the door and took the key.
That's nothing. The balcony and the fire escape. That's the way the thief came. Why, as likely as not, you actually disturbed him at work. He slips out of the window, and when you're all gone, he comes back in and goes on with his business.
You're sure, I said, that there was a thief? He said dryly.
Well, it looks like it, doesn't it?
But something in his tone satisfied me. I felt that he wouldn't take Mr. Sanders in the role of the bereaved widower too seriously. You see, I admitted frankly, I was absolutely under the opinion of what I believe our neighbors, the French, call the idée fixe. The idée fixe. I knew that that man, Sanders, intended his wife to die. What I didn't allow for was that strange and fantastic thing, coincidence. My views about Mr. Sanders were, I was sure of it, absolutely right and true. The man was a scoundrel. But although his hypocritical assumptions of grief didn't deceive me for a minute, I do remember feeling at the time that his surprise and bewilderment were marvelously well done. They seemed absolutely natural, if you know what I mean. I must admit that after my conversation with the inspector, a curious feeling of doubt crept over me. Because if Sanders had done this dreadful thing, I couldn't imagine any conceivable reason why he should creep back by means of the fire escape and take the earrings from his wife's ears. It wouldn't have been a sensible thing to do, and Mr. Sanders was such a very sensible man. That's just why I always felt he was so dangerous. Miss Marple looked round at her audience. You see perhaps what I am coming to. It is so often the unexpected that happens in this world. I was so sure, and that, I think, was what blinded me. The result came as a shock to me, for it was proved beyond any possible doubt. Mr. Sanders could not have possibly committed the crime. A surprised gasp came from Mrs. Bantry. Miss Marple turned to her. I know, my dear, that isn't what you expected when I began this story. It wasn't what I expected either. But facts are facts, and if one is proved to be wrong, one must just be humble about it and start again. That Mr. Sanders was a murderer at heart I knew, and nothing ever occurred to upset that firm conviction of mine. And now I expect you would like to hear the actual facts themselves. Mrs. Sanders, as you know, spent the afternoon playing bridge with some friends, the Mortimers. She left them at about 6:15. From her friend's house to the Hydro was about 1/4 walk, less if one hurried. She must have come in then about 6:30. No one saw her come in, so she must have entered by the side door and hurried straight up to her room. Then there she changed. The fawn coat and skirt she wore to the bridge party were hanging up on the cupboard, and was evidently preparing to go out again, when the blow fell. Quite possibly, they say, she never even knew who struck her. The sandbag, I understand, is a very efficient weapon. That looks as though the attackers were concealed in the room, possibly in one of the big wardrobe cupboards, the one she didn't open. Now, as to the movements of Mr. Sanders, he went out, as I have said, at about 5:30 or a little after. He did some shopping at a couple of shops, and at about 6 o'clock, he entered the Grand Spa Hotel, where he encountered two friends, the same with whom he returned to the Hydro later. They played billiards and, I gather, had a good many whiskies and sodas together. These two men, Hitchcock and Spender their names were actually with him the whole time from 6 o'clock onwards. They walked back to the Hydro with him, and he only left them to come across to me and Miss Trollope. That, as I told you, was about 6:45, at which time his wife must have already been dead. I must tell you that I talked myself to these two friends of his. I did not like them. They were neither pleasant nor gentlemanly men, but I was quite certain of one thing, that they were speaking the absolute truth when they said that Sanders had been the whole time in their company. There was just one other little point that came up. It seems that while bridge was going on, Mrs. Sanders was called to the telephone. A Mr. Littleworth wanted to speak to her. She seemed both excited and pleased about something, and incidentally made one or two bad mistakes. She left rather earlier than they expected her to do. Mr. Sanders was asked whether he knew the name of Littleworth as being one of his wife's friends, but he declared he had never heard of anyone of that name, and that, to me, seems borne out by his wife's attitude. She too did not seem to know the name of Littleworth. Nevertheless, she came back from the telephone smiling and blushing, so it looks as though whoever it was did not give his real name, and that in itself has a suspicious aspect, does it not? Anyway, that is the problem that was left. The burglar story, which seems unlikely, or the alternative theory that Mrs. Sanders was preparing to go out and meet somebody. Did that somebody come to her room by means of a fire escape? Was there a quarrel? Or did he treacherously attack her? Miss Marple stopped.
"Well?"
said Sir Henry.
"What is the answer?"
I wondered if any of you could guess. I'm never good at guessing, said Mrs. Bantry. It seems a pity that Miss Sanders had such a wonderful alibi, but if it satisfied you, it must have been all right. Jane Hellier moved her beautiful head and asked a question. Why, she said, was the hat cupboard locked? How very clever of you, my dear, said Miss Marple, beaming. That's just what I wondered myself, though the explanation was quite simple. In it were a pair of embroidered slippers and some pocket handkerchiefs that the poor girl was embroidering for her husband for Christmas. That's why she locked the cupboard. The key was found in her handbag. Oh, said Jane. Then it isn't very interesting after all. Oh, but it is, said Miss Marple. It's just the one really interesting thing. The thing that made all the murderers' plans go wrong. Everyone stared at the old lady. I didn't see it myself for 2 days, said Miss Marple. I puzzled, and then suddenly, there it was, all clear. I went to the inspector and asked him to try something, and he did. What did you ask him to try? I asked him to fit that hat on the poor girl's head, and of course he couldn't. It wouldn't go on. It wasn't her hat, you see. Mrs. Bantry stared. But it was on her head to begin with. Not on her head. Miss Marple stopped a moment to let her words sink in, then went on. We took it for granted that it was poor Gladys's body there, but we never looked at the face. She was face downwards, remember, and the hat hid everything. But she was killed. Yes. Later. At the moment that we were telephoning to the police, Gladys Sanders was alive and well.
You mean it was someone pretending to be her? But surely when you touched her...
It was a dead body, right enough, said Miss Marple gravely.
But dash it all, said Colonel Bantry. You can't get hold of dead bodies right and left. What did they do with the first corpse afterwards?
He'd put it back, said Miss Marple. It was a wicked idea, but a very clever one. It was our talk in the drawing room that put it into his head. The body of poor Mary, the housemaid. Why not use it? Remember, the Sanders room was up amongst the servants' quarters. Mary's room was 2 doors off. The undertaker wouldn't come till after dark. He counted on that. He carried the body along the balcony. It was dark at 5. Dressed it in one of his wife's dresses and her big red coat. And then he found the hat cupboard locked. There was only one thing to be done. He fetched one of the poor girl's own hats. No one would notice. He put the sandbag down beside her. Then he went off to establish his alibi. He telephoned to his wife, calling himself Mr. Littleworth. I don't know what he said to her. She was a credulous girl, as I said just now. But he got her to leave the bridge party early and not go back to the hydro, and arranged with her to meet him in the grounds of the hydro near the fire escape at 7 o'clock. He probably told her he had some surprise for her. He returns to the hydro with his friends, and arranges that Miss Trollope and I shall discover the crime with him. He even pretends to turn the body over, and I stop him. Then the police are sent for, and he staggers out into the grounds. Nobody asked him for an alibi after the crime. He meets his wife, takes her up the fire escape, they enter their room. Perhaps he has already told her some story about the body. She stoops over it, and he picks up his sandbag and strikes. Oh dear, it makes me sick to think of, even now. Then quickly he strips off her coat and skirt, hangs them up, and dresses her in the clothes from the other body. But the hat won't go on. Mary's head is shingled. Gladys Sanders, as I say, had a great bun of hair. He's forced to leave it beside the body and hope no one will notice. Then he carries poor Mary's body back to her own room and arranges it decorously once more.
It seems incredible,
said Dr. Lloyd.
The risks he took. The police might have arrived too soon.
You remember the line was out of order, said Miss Marple. That was a piece of his work. He couldn't afford to have the police on the spot too soon. When they did come, they spent some time in the manager's office before going up to the bedroom. That was the weakest point. The chance that someone might notice the difference between a body that had just been dead 2 hours and one that had been dead just over half an hour. But he counted on the fact that the people who first discovered the crime would have no expert knowledge. Dr. Lloyd nodded. The crime would be supposed to have been committed about 6:45 or thereabouts, I suppose.
Oh, my bad. The crime would be supposed to have been committed about 6:45 or thereabouts, I suppose,
he said.
It was actually committed at 7 or a few minutes after. When the police surgeon examined the body, it would be about 7:30 at the earliest. He couldn't possibly tell.
I am the person who should have known, said Miss Marple. I felt the poor girl's hand, and it was icy cold. Yet a short time later, the inspector spoke as though the murder must have been committed just before we arrived, and I saw nothing.
I think you saw a good deal, Miss Marple,
said Sir Henry.
The case was before my time. I don't even remember hearing of it. What happened?
Sanders was hanged, said Miss Marple crisply, and a good job too. I have never regretted my part in bringing that man to justice. I've no patience with modern humanitarian scruples about capital punishment. Her stern face softened. But I have often reproached myself bitterly with failing to save the life of that poor girl. But who would have listened to an old woman jumping to conclusions? Well, well, who knows? Perhaps it was better for her to die while life was still happy than it would have been for her to live on, unhappy and disillusioned, in a world that would have seemed suddenly horrible. She loved that scoundrel and trusted him. She never found him out. Well then, said Jane Hellier, she was all right. Quite all right. I wish... She stopped. Miss Marple looked at the famous, the beautiful, the successful Jane Hellier and nodded her head gently. I see, my dear, she said very gently. I see. And that was A Christmas Tragedy, written by Agatha Christie. I think that was a fun little romp. Just a short little story to get through. It's actually a lot shorter than I thought it'd be to read. I thought I would have a little bit more time than that, or take a little more time than that. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Shoot. If I had thought that would have been so short, I would have had another one lined up, but I don't. It was rather sad, yeah. I think the tone is just very it was very like I like the structure of it being sort of like a campfire story in a way. With how it's presented and how it's like sort of so here's a story I was a part of. Here's something messed up that happened to me or that I was part of. I'm sorry, every time I think of here's something that was messed up, I keep thinking of like this has nothing to do with the story, but I keep thinking of this one post that I've seen before that has a picture of Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone and a speech bubble, and the text that just says, "Man, wasn't that fucked up? I'm Rod Serling." At the end of like a Twilight Zone episode. Great, now I want to watch the old Miss Marple movies again. What I got from this story. One of the most male dominated industries, murder. No, I'm just kidding. It is interesting that a lot of the time it's like a male murderer. I kind of wish for more like female or even, I don't know, children who turned out to have done the thing, whether maliciously or not. It'd be an interesting twist to be like, oh, this guy is obviously set up. I mean, look at him. He's got the aura of the killer and stuff like that. He's got no easily explainable alibi, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this kid did it by accident. There is no murder. The kid panicked and hit it. Well, shit. I know some of the books that got adapted into the movies, it's a solid 50-50 between male-female killers. Ooh, so I should look for more then. Because I previously have read another Agatha Christie book on stream before. It was And Then There Were None. And that one was a thrill, like seeing the old man be the killer there, but definitely want to find more stories where killer's a woman. I've also read a few Sherlock Holmes books on stream. Definitely want to get back to that later. I think after the holiday season, I'm gonna start up another Sherlock Holmes story. Because I've read A Study in Scarlet, and I've read The Hounds of the Baskervilles. The Hound singular of the Baskervilles, and I still want to read like Sign of Four and a couple of the other stuff that leads up to the final problem, because I want to read on stream the rivalry between Holmes and Moriarty. Lesbian murderers Doko. Well, I did read Carmilla on stream that one time. But yeah, so that I definitely want to read more mystery stuff. I know before I've also said I want to read more um, other genres, but I can't help it. I think mystery ones are really fun to read on stream. Maybe I could delve into some fantasy or something, but I don't know. I just have I have fun reading mysteries more just because of the pacing, the suspense. I read that for a villain paper. Nearly. Ooh. Reread Carmilla for Christmas. I read it for Halloween. It's too recent. It's like I can still hear her voice. You can always check. You can always re-listen to the VODs. After the funeral is, I think, a good Agatha story. 44th one she did. Oh, okay. I'm gonna put that down on my list of potential stories to read. Let's see. Let's go ahead and after the funeral, Agatha Christie. There we go. So there we go. I've gone ahead and noted that down, so that way, if I need inspiration, I can always pull from my virtual bookshelf, which is your guys' recommendations. Let's see. So real quick, today is December 12th, Friday, in my zone. Christmas is in 13 days. Again, where I'm at. Could be sooner for you guys, but I am very excited for Christmas to come because I just realized Christmas is going to be my half anniversary milestone. I meanwhile have been trying to install stuff, but GOG decided that watching YouTube alongside it was a crime and has taken all my frames. Oh no! I'm so sorry. I mean, this is supposed to be a relatively lightweight stream too. I'm not even playing anything. But yeah, as I was saying, Christmas is coming very soon. Christmas 2 weeks away. And I don't know what I'm doing that week yet because things are very up in the air. They're gonna be up in the air for a little while, actually, which I don't like. I appreciate predictability because it means I can accurately schedule things for you guys and have things um, sorted and accounted for, planned and scheduled, and I can schedule my posts and my waiting rooms and all that, but things are going to be a little bit hectic on my side for a little while. But I do know that I should have Christmas open to me, hopefully. um, if I don't, I'll be a little upset, but I have tried to make it so that my Christmas is available. But if it is, um, I will be celebrating my 6 month mark on the day of. I think even if it's not exactly, what do you call it? Even if it's not perfectly timed, I'll get it as close as I can. But we're gonna do a Christmas karaoke around that time, the week of. So that's gonna be very exciting. Need to need to study over the holidays for terms. Yeah, I feel that. I think there's gonna come a time very soon where I have to reschedule what time my streams take place. Because currently I stream at 3 p.m. my time, Pacific, which seems to work pretty well for most of my viewers, but I might have to put it earlier so that I can avoid putting it later. I don't want to put it too late at night my time. If I do that, then I'm probably gonna screw things up a little bit too much. So I think, if anything, I should probably schedule it earlier for me. I'm thinking out loud at this point. I'm sorry. You guys don't need to hear this stuff. But just know that things are gonna get a little bit rocky. We're in for some turbulence, but I'm gonna do my best, and I'm gonna try to keep it going. Try to keep my streams twice a week if possible. Try to get things going so that I stream at a time that's good for you guys. If I have to do it a little bit earlier, if I have to do it a little bit later, I'll figure out what's going on. But I just want to thank you guys so much for being on this like journey with me, and every uncertain bump in the road, and every clear sky and every rocky terrain. Thank you so much for being here and supporting me and just chilling out. Honestly, having you guys here really means a lot to me. Makes me feel like it's worthwhile. So that's why it's very important to me that I schedule my streams in a way that works for you guys, so that you guys can be here with me live when I'm doing this. Not that I not that I don't love my VOD gang either. VOD watchers, if you're watching this later after the fact, I love you guys very much. You guys are just as much part of the Rainiacs and Langsters as anyone. I know people have lives. I have a life, as much as I'd rather just be streaming all day. But, yeah. Earlier, I don't mind, because I watch you at 12 p.m. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. 3 p.m. for me is 12 p.m. for you. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to keep things going as best I can. If I have to move the days that I stream so I can keep the time frame, then so be it. If I have to adjust the time, then we'll figure it out. But the important thing is that we figure it out together. And as long as I still have you guys with me, whether live or VOD, then, we'll get through this. So, I think I am going to... I might pad a little bit of time. I kind of want to keep talking. I wanted to save this for tomorrow. This is completely unrelated to everything, but did you guys see the Street Fighter trailer yesterday? During the Game Awards, the Street Fighter movie? Because I was initially going to do a guerrilla watch along of the Game Awards, but I wasn't able to get it together in time. So I ended up just kind of seeing some highlights and partially watching it um, casually at home. But the for those who did watch, first of all, did your favorite games win? Yeah, a new Mega Man. I'm surprised. We are so back. Like, I've not been like a diehard Mega Man fan, but it always felt like there was something missing in gaming without him. So, I'm pleasantly surprised that he's back. Um, Wait, now that I think about it, I didn't see the trailer. So yeah, there's the Street Fighter movie has a trailer and has been announced, and well, I mean it's been announced, but we actually get to see some film footage. It was very quick cut and very like hard to really. None of the shots held too long, but it was very actiony from what they showed. So they're definitely highlighting that there's a lot more fights in this one as compared to 1994 or Legend of Chun-Li. They're making a contest where you can send in your robot master designs. One of my friends is gonna participate. Ooh, good luck to your friend. That would be so cool to see your design in a game. Wow. Um. Wow, yeah, that's really cool. I think that what do you call it? Um the Street Fighter casting this time around looks better, I would say. I would say it looks better. Um I have thoughts. And I don't know if I want to share them now or if I want to share them tomorrow during the gaming stream. And I kind of want to see if a tier maker exists so I can rate them. If it doesn't, I think I'll make one myself. Um, so you know what? I'll hold my thoughts for tomorrow, and I'll tell you guys what I think about the Street Fighter casting and what little we've seen so far, but what is enough to at least go by in terms of vibes and not just visual accuracy, but like, does it feel like this actor knows how to do this role? Windows 32p install window jump scare. Thanks, GOG. Looks at 94's cast. I don't think better sounds any. Okay, okay. Street Fighter 94 did not have the best cast, but the ones they hit. Like, I think Raul Julia's M. Bison still has a good striking feature. Like he still has the right face structure for it. Ming-Na Wen as Chun-Li still works. Kylie Minogue as Cammy. Heavy personal bias, but I liked it. The guy that got to play Zangief, I don't remember what his actor's name was, but he was, I mean, he didn't get to do much fighting in the role, but, he at least looked the part. Plus, who could ever forget?
Quick, change the channel!
If you say if you say Kylie, you're just gay and biased. I just saw that. um
Of course!
There's a game by Acclaim based off the movie which added Akuma. Yes! Yeah, not only did they add Akuma, he was played by Ernie Reyes Sr., who is father of Ernie Reyes Jr., who has starred in a few, like, kiddie action films and, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and Surf Ninjas, I think? Junior, I mean. I don't know what Senior's been in, but Senior played Akuma for that game, and God, it looks goofy. And the thing is, the game, the home port was a fix of the freaking arcade port, or the arcade version made by, what was it? Amazing Technology or something like that, and it was awful. But yeah, like, I think the casting is definitely better than 94 and Legend of Chun-Li, but there's still some misses, and I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow, because I'm gonna look for a tier maker and I'm gonna make one if there doesn't already exist one, and it's gonna be great. So we're gonna spend some time during tomorrow's stream talking the Street Fighter movie and see if there's any other like fighting game news that I really want to talk about, because fighting games are kind of like my favorite genre, aside like rhythm games. So I have a lot when it comes to talking about that stuff. Other than that, congrats to Uma Musume. Yes, it is pronounced Uma Musume. What the hell was that pronunciation? um the presenter who gave the award to Uma Musume butchered the name so badly, and it's like, how do you get it that bad? Point is, the game won, and that's cool. So I don't remember if Hades 2 won any of the things it was nominated for, which makes me sad because I like Hades 2, but I know these awards aren't also like, I don't know. Congratulations to Claire Obscure Expedition 33, I guess. Insanely popular game this year, so it definitely won a lot of the awards. So hey, big ups to you guys over there in France land. Claire Obscure is super fun. I'm not very good at RPGs, so I tend not to play a lot of them. But I gotta admit, what I've seen of that game, it looks very beautiful. It looks very fun to play for its genre. Um, I am just very bad at RPGs. I think it's a mix. It's sort of like an attention span thing, and also I'm just not very good at like what do you call it? Optimizing. And RPGs really favor optimizing, in my experience. Um, I'm the JRPG girl. Reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy 13. Oh. Um, the last RPG I played, JRPG, was 12 years ago. I revisited Chrono Trigger, and then something happened to corrupt my save, and I got brokenhearted and didn't try it again. I was really close to the end too, I remember, and then my save got corrupted, and I tried everything to like see if there was any way to recover any version of it because I was playing on an emulator, of course, which, I shouldn't necessarily say that, but this was 12 years ago, so, whatever. Uh, I tried everything and I couldn't find any way to restore it, and I had spent, I kid you not, 100 hours in that game by that point. It was, it hurt. Super Nintendo JRPGs did have the tendency to hard die a lot. Dragon Quest 11 for over 100 hours. Ooh. Yeah, I don't usually put that much time in a game, so when it like died on me like that, it broke me. I couldn't go through all that again. Like, oh, it's been 12 years. Maybe, just maybe. We'll see. I kind of like playing them all in like the holidays where you get a lot of time and just yeah, yeah, just sitting there and just playing through classic games and just yeah. That's kind of why I'm doing so much of the retro streams, retro gaming streams this month because it just reminds me of that feeling of just like, sitting on that old familiar carpet or couch or whatever, and you know, uh, just playing a lot of the games that you remember growing up with, just old comforts. It's so nice. Or do Final Fantasy 15, 3, and Dragon Quest 11, 225 hours. Goodness, holy. Has to start an RPG all over again, crying. Has to start a roguelike or light all over again. Oh boy, here we go again. Listen, I'm still a little mad at Hades 2 for that. Like, I'm not looking forward to finishing the story and then going back to really finish the story. But I am excited to play some more Hades 2 because I do love the gameplay a lot. um, man, RPGs are really fun. I'm just yeah, like I said, I'm not good at it. I like watching other people play them. I've watched a couple people. I've watched a couple people play Earthbound. What was it? Final Fantasy. I remember growing up watching somebody playing Final Fantasy 7 in my household, and that was fun. Um, and then what do you call it? Somebody close to me is a really big fan of Legend of Dragoon. Um, and I think what was another one? It was Ephemeral Fantasia. I think that was like a PS2 JRPG. Wait, let me see. To be fair, I like to voice act JRPGs, and when you don't talk a lot, your voice usually dies immediately. Hmm. Oh yeah, from what I saw, Earthbound looks like a lot of fun if you love the genre, but there's a lot about it that can like be roadblocks, and you're like, oh. Oh, I still need to play Legend of Dragoon. I got it really cheap on OG hardware. Ooh, nice. Yeah, give it a go if you can. I think it would. I think it'll appeal to you if you already like JRPGs. I think you'll like it. The addition system is really fun. The Dragoon transformations. Um, it's really fun. It's a bit more engaging and immersive of an RPG in my experience, in my very limited experience. But I liked it. Um, from what little I got to actually play of it, but mostly what I remember watching. Has no time for RPGs, buys more RPGs, and doesn't play the one she buys. You know, it's for next. It's for when you do have time. It's like storing up the items for what if I need it later. That's that's all. That's the mindset. What if I have time later? But yeah, I like watching RPGs more than playing them. I should play one at some point on stream. It'll be good voice acting practice. It'll be good at like kind of getting me more experience in the genre, but we'll figure that out. That's To be fair, I like watching people play them more. That's my excuse for not playing Final Fantasies 9 and 10 even though I own them. I've seen a couple of playthroughs of 10. One was partial because it was somebody in my life that played it, but I don't think ever finished it while I was around. And then I saw Matt and Wooly play it, and their playthrough just completely broke my mind with all the stuff they were doing with Waka. Oh, Undertale. I did play that one when it came out. Maybe I can revisit it because it's been uh what, 10 years now? A little over 10? Yeah, maybe I could revisit Undertale. Which route would you guys want me to play? Don't make me feel old. For what it's worth, I remember when. Okay, no, I don't want to date myself too much. I'll carbon date myself a little bit. I remember when Final Fantasy VII Original was announced. So if you're not older than that, you're not old yet. If you are that old, welcome to the club. If you are older than that, I'm sorry. How old is that? Let's see.
Final Fantasy 7, 1997. Wow. A whole previous century ago. A whole previous millennium ago. Okay, that's too far, but yeah, no, yeah, you were surprisingly on the mark there. 96, that was really close. Kind of just live outside time and age, I guess. Oh, well, you know, fellow Time Lords. We gotta stick together. Used to have a VHS machine. See, the thing is, I came up at like, I remember having a hybrid machine, which is that it was like a big box, a really big box, and it was basically, it played both. Um, can I, by any chance, find the one I used? I don't think I can. Maybe not. Oh, that looks pretty close. Is that it? Might be it. Well, I'll just show this one. But let me just go ahead and move myself out of the way real quick so I can show you guys. Oops, let me cut these out too. There we go. Yeah, this was a hybrid DVD and VHS player. So it had both. And this wasn't the one I used, but this is like one of the ones that was on the market. So here you put the VHS tape, here you put the DVD, and of course the remote had to be chunky enough to accommodate both. But yeah, I had something like that, and my TV was like the size of your Model 1 screen pocket VCR. Amazing. But yeah, it would play both. You would use the red, white, and yellow cables for the stereo sound and the video feed, and plug them into your TV. Which, by the way, TVs back then, oof, they were big. um, TVs back then were not as like sleek as they were. Let me see if I can find one that was like the one I had. Where are you? Don't show me a picture of a boombox. Don't show me a camcorder. I'm looking for a television. Yeah, they weren't bigger, they weren't wider, but they were thicker. They were like if the dimensions are like width, length, and depth, they were definitely deeper. Like you can't put them on a small shelf. They have to be. Yeah, this will do. Like these. Look how far back they go. I wouldn't know. I double my TV as a PC screen. That's pretty awesome, honestly. I think I need to like improve my setup a little bit before I can do that. But yeah, this was the type of thickness TVs had, and then you had the video mono and stereo cables that plug directly in, either in the front or in the back. So when you use your VCR, um, or your gaming consoles, you would have to plug those there so that the video feed can show up when you either change your channel to 3 or use the special input option on the remote, which would register the inputs from the device and show the images from there and all that. It was, yeah. Walkman girls transform and rise up. Sound wave noises. And then we had camcorders. This is an absurdly small camcorder for the time. Like the camcorder I remember was more like this. Not really this. Like more like this. Like these were ones you had to rent because no way in hell were you gonna afford this for yourself unless you were actually a freaking filmmaker. And even then, like even filmmakers rented these. Like the average, yeah, they were 1,000 in 90s money. Like, ooh, they were. If you wanted like video recording of the happenings around your house, holidays, family trips, whatever, you had to rent that, and then you had to be extra careful because not only were these things freaking expensive, they were also surprisingly easier to break than you'd think, and it's like, god damn. um, my dad had someone lend him one to record childhood videos of us. Aw. But yeah. And then you had. I also had a cassette CD player like combo as well, where you can have the. This one's close. This is close to the one I had. You would have the CD tray up top, and then down here is where you put the cassette. And then you can see all the controls here. God, I remember these. That's the magnifying glass at the front that's expensive. Ah, I see. And then when cassettes got more phased out, I had someone that I was growing up with who was like really like into sound and CDs and listening to CDs all day. So we had let me see if I can find it. It was like, yeah, it was like a multiple CD player, so you could put like multiple discs in, and then you could like just use an input to change the disc that's playing at any one time. And this person that I knew was really into movie soundtracks, so every day that I saw him, there would just be a different movie soundtrack playing, and when that soundtrack was done, it would change the disc too. Different movie soundtrack. I kind of miss stuff like this. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, were they cumbersome? Yeah. But I liked them. Oh my god, this one actually might be the one that I remember seeing. This was a Sony 5 disc changer. Yeah, the track listings here. Oh my god, this is actually the one that the guy that I knew used. Holy crap. Hello, old friend. And he bought 2 tower speakers on either side of him so that when like it was
his house was like full THX mode, crisp audio. He was a total audiophile, and he actually is why I'm so big into like sound quality in my music and stuff. But he had these big tower speakers and like a additional subwoofer, and oh my god, wow, it's so weird to see this again. Oh, you know, I grew up around people who knew people who had a vinyl player, but I never actually had one myself or like directly knew someone who had one. I would have loved to try it out. Someday, actually, I'm gonna get a Victrola and get some vinyl records if I can, and you know, because I want that for myself. I want a Victrola. I want to have my albums on vinyl. I wanted to someday get a Doctor Who vinyl, but money and life choices. Oh man, I'm in good company here. You guys get it. Old tech really makes you appreciate how far we've come. Like, I still miss. Oh my god, the headphones of dubious quality. They were great for their time. One of my earliest childhood memories is putting my fist into my dad's boombox and breaking it. Oh my god. I um what do you call it? I remember having a Walkman that also had a speaker on it. Let's see if I can find it. Like it was a Walkman that played cassettes and had the headphone jack, but you could also use it to like it had a speaker so you could listen to it out loud. And I remember using it for a project for school where you had to interview somebody. So I had to get a blank tape and um, record the interview. Like I set it down in between us and did the interview, and then for my presentation, I had to play the audio out loud and discuss it and stuff. And man, wanted to buy a Walkman, but then realized that cassettes beloved. I could listen to half of Aladdin by Disney. And then the switch to CDs, I remember having just about this exact model. Actually, let me see if I can find the model I used. Because it was a Walkman. Oh my god. It was. I definitely had this one at some point. Oh my god. This one. I definitely remember this one too. Oh, this one too. Wow. Yeah, I had several of these. Like, things kept happening to them, so I had to keep replacing them.
but wow, it is impressive to just so easily find. Oh my god, I knew somebody who had this one. I was jealous because I love clear plastic technology. Oh wow, what a trip! What a trip! Ah. And then I remember when iPods got huge, I didn't quite have the money for an iPod, so I always got those like off-brand, uh, like USB MP3 players. Yeah, pretty much exactly found it on frame one. Look at that. Is this kind exactly. Think we found a clear plastic Windows 95 at the office once. Ooh. And I remember like when I couldn't find a download file to a song I wanted to download and plug into the computer to um, have it on the device. I remember you can see here it says mic, so it could record audio. Not great, but if you try and you hold it to the speaker a certain way, you can get close to good audio. Um, so I would, and this is hilarious to admit, but the very first version of a portable, constantly like listenable version of Dragoste Dinte that I ever had was me recording it off of YouTube, like just recording the audio off of YouTube and having it on this type of device and just listening to that all day. To be fair, I'm a baby. I only got into music super late, like a decade ago. It's never too late, at least, you know. I did that with my first phones because I didn't know how to download songs. Yeah, the the freaking dark ages. As an ex-AMV maker, recording the audio off YouTube do be a mood. Yeah, right? Sometimes media preservation comes in the weirdest of forms. Oh man. What a trip. I can't believe I'm like just how did we get it? You know, it no longer matters how we got here. I don't care. This has been fun. This has been a fun like walk down memory lane with you guys. And then I discovered yeah. Good times, good times. Well, not good times. Simpler times. It's important to distinguish that the simpler times weren't always good, but they were simpler, and that holds a special place for us. But yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys again for being here. You know, listening to the story and then just hanging out for a yap session. You know, it was nice. It's fun. I wish I could do this with you guys more often throughout the week, longer. It's silly, but I guess one of a streamer's greatest wishes is just to be able to do this forever, to just play games and yap around with you guys, or in my case, read stories and just
So I'm thankful for every time that you guys do come here and hang out with me. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna do my best to make sure that I keep my streams accessible for you guys. I make sure that you guys are that they're well timed enough that you can make it to the live streams um, and hang out, or that the VODs are always up for you guys to revisit, or if you're not able to make it to the live. But it means a lot. I know that, as they say, when you travel by plane, we know you have a lot of choices when it comes to air travel, or in this case, virtual entertainment. So thank you very much for watching Ray Langley. But, I mean, maybe it's just the sentiment of the holiday, and I don't say this much, but I definitely should work on it. I love you guys. My Rainiacs and Langsters, you guys really make this fun for me, and you make the decision to make this channel worth it. I started this mostly because I just wanted to read stories to people and have people engage with media and written works and stuff. I kind of entered it with like a sort of saving literacy and going teacher mode on stuff, but this just became something really fun that I look forward to doing. So, thank you very much for that. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow for the retro gaming stream. Same time. It might be the last time I'm able to start at the same time for a little while, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I will see what happens next week, and if I can only get one stream out, then I will do that. If I can get 2 streams out, I will do that as well. I just want to make sure that I always see you guys at least once a week, and I'll fix the timing as I need to, and we'll go from there. But like I said, whatever we do, as long as you guys are with me, as long as we're together, we'll be alright. Because that's how a gang rolls, right? A gang sticks together, and a gang rolls with the punches together. So, yeah. Ugly cries, no you. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Like I said, there's no stream without you guys. A streamer without an audience is, well, just a monologuer. So, thank you all for being here. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow, and today was really fun. There's gonna be more rambling and some pixels and nostalgia, and maybe even a little crash out depending on how the game goes. And yeah, so until next time, make sure that you guys eat well, stay hydrated, and get lots of good rest. Be kind to yourselves and be excellent to each other. And of course, as always, most importantly, unshrimp yourselves. Have a radiant rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.